What's up, peeps? Nick Battle, aka NinosCorner, man. First off, if you like this content that is coming your way, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell on YouTube to get all the notifications. Means a lot, folks. And if you're listening to, if you're listening to this on the podcast, man, give me a 5-star comment, a review, a like, a shout out. Means a lot, folks. Helps me grow the channel a lot more. First off, guys, let's go ahead. I'm gonna do a shameless plug here, guys, for my clothing line, guys. So NinosCornerMerch.com, 10% off using the promo code NCPeeps10 at NinosCornerMerch.com. It's getting to be hoodie season, guys. Go get your hoodies, go get your t-shirts, man. It's the whole do you message. Don't be afraid to feel outgrow your environment. Understand your brilliance, guys. But you guys didn't come to hear me talk about that. We are here to talk about Texas versus Kansas on Saturday and what happened in this 57-56 debacle. Texas losing the game against Kansas. This is the second time since 2016. So the second time in 5 years in which Texas has fallen to Kansas. People are wondering, how is Texas losing to Kansas? And I kind of pointed this out here last week in regards to the actual O-line, just the amount of guys who are actually committed here to Texas and the numbers that Texas has pulled over the last 5 years since 2017. So just looking at those numbers, guys, Texas is ranked dead last with Kansas when it comes to offensive line recruiting. 18 recruits, guys, 18 recruits. And out of those 18 recruits, there are only 12 still here on campus. So that means that Texas recruited or got in from the transfer portal 18 offensive linemen, dead last in the Big 12. The number one team in the Big 12 when it came to offensive line recruiting has been Baylor with 26. And I think Oklahoma was next with 24. And you see people say, hey, well, Baylor hasn't been doing great. Yes, they have. Baylor has completely rebuilt their team 2 times with 2 separate coaches. Matt Rule brings that team from a 1-win team to 11 wins. He bounces to go to the NFL. Dave Aranda brings in his new staff, wins 2 games last year, and this year he is 8-2 right now. Complete change, complete total rebuilds twice in that 5-year time span. And that is because, in my opinion, offensive line recruits and commitments has a big deal with that. You're able to implement the offense that you want if you do not have a world beater at quarterback who can basically mask all of the bad things that your offensive line does. If you don't have one of those guys as the signal caller, then you need to have a top ranked, top flight offensive line. And your offensive line, folks, it's not going to be, I'm not going to say most of the time, but offensive line is one of those positions where you need to throw a bunch of bodies at. Sometimes your most highly touted recruits are the guys who don't pan out. And for Texas, some of our lowest ranked recruits in Samuel Cosme, Connor Williams, those two were some of our two lowest ranked recruits in their respective classes. They're now earning checks on Sundays, which goes to show you the offensive line is one of the hardest positions to recruit, one of the hardest positions to evaluate. However, it is a position that you need a bunch of guys there, a lot of bulk, a lot of folks there to assure that you can have the amount of folks necessary to field a decent line. Iron sharpens iron, right, folks? Iron sharpens iron. So you need a bunch of big guys to go and help you do that. But let's dig into the game, man. Texas loses the game 57-56. One thing that I found very interesting in this game that kind of threw me for one was, Sark already said third drive, he's going to give the reins over to Hudson Card for 2 drives to see what he does. Which, if that's the agreement that you have, I guess you got to stick to it because of fear that one of these guys might transfer. The fear of that needs to go out of the window now because, look here, guys, we lost four straight games, now 5 straight games. Casey had just thrown a beautiful touchdown pass. Now it is time to ride the hot hand. That's one of those, hey, Hudson, I know I told you we're going to get you in, but this game was a lot tighter than I thought it was going to be. Casey is going to continue to be in this game until he shows me otherwise. And Casey was a G about it, man. Hudson comes in, fumbles the ball, has no pocket awareness, itsy antsy feet, no pocket awareness. And then after no pocket awareness, gets sacked, fumbles the ball. KU goes in for a touchdown. On the next offensive play, not the next drive, not the whole drive, the next offensive play, he throws a pick 6. So these are 2 plays from Hudson back to back that cost us 14 points. And I think that was the game along with the defensive play. We'll get into that when it comes to the metrics. But just some kudos to a few folks. Casey threw a couple balls that should have been probably picked off. But I got to give Casey his props. He balled out because he came in a situation where he was down big. Hudson pretty much dug us a deep hole, and Casey dug us out of it, gets the team to have the lead here in overtime. Think about that, guys. The first time Texas had the lead in this game was in overtime. This gets Kansas. Next guy that had a game, Xavier Worthy. You're seeing the kind of recruits, you're seeing the kind of guys that Steve Sarkisian wants in his team. Xavier Worthy might not be the biggest guy when it comes to size. The guy's only 165 pounds, maybe. But the guy's tough, man. He lowers that shoulder. He lowers the boom. He's tough. He was basically running out there in the second half with one leg. And the dude had 23, 24 targets, somewhere around there. You're talking about when you talk about a guy like Bijan, when you talk about the number of touches they get, right? And you don't want to kill your running back and give him 25 to 30 touches a game. We just gave Xavier Worthy 24 attempts. So that means that he's highly engaged. The ball's coming his way. He's fighting through everything because the ball's coming his way. It's, maybe the ball's catchable, maybe it's not, but he has to attempt to go get the ball. It's not just him running around and nobody's touching him. He's getting hit. And Worthy balled out, man. Worthy balled out. He's tough, man. He is exactly the kind of player that this team and this culture needs. He needs a player like that. We need players like that. We need dogs, man. That's why I'm so excited to see Thompson here next year. It's Brendan Thompson and him. I'm talking about two speed guys, electric guys. You're seeing the kind of wide receiver that Steve Sarkisian covets. Guys with speed, guys with moves, guys with wiggle. They might not be the biggest of guys, but guess what? They're going to be fast and they're going to be game changers. Complete opposite of what Tom Herman values. We see the wide receivers that are on this team now, a bunch of size. A Troy, a Mary, a bigger guy, Marcus Washington, a bigger guy. And I will say Marcus Washington balled out. Way to go, Marcus Washington. And we've been waiting for games like this. And I think now that Josh Moore's not on the team anymore, it kind of opened the gates for Marcus Washington. I think you're seeing the best of him. And I know it's just Kansas. I get it. But, man, he looked good. And he's been showing good spurts throughout this year. But now we finally got to see everything come together in one game. And maybe it's because he's able to play a little bit more freely because he knows he's the second guy on this team now. And he's not getting the third string balls thrown to him or like the third, read. He's no kidding that second read now. And sometimes the first read, just depending on the matchup. But, man, he balled out. Way to go, Marcus Washington. Other folks that balled out, man. Two more folks, man, I want to talk about. Bijan Robinson. He always balls out. He's tough, man. Bijan's tough. You got to love Bijan. News just came out that he has an elbow injury, so he's out for the rest of the season. But Bijan is a warrior. Guys like Xavier Worthy, Bijan. I like Marcus Washington. I love his attitude. I love that Marcus Washington doesn't mind blocking. Let me get the mic down here because I'm talking kind of loud on this mic. I love that Marcus Washington doesn't mind blocking. I love that Rojo is the all-around great back. Guy that loves to run the ball, team player, selfless. Guy, we all know the story of Rojo. Moves from quarterback to running back, does this thing. That story doesn't need to be told anymore. But that's a guy that you love to have on your team. On the defense side of the ball, I'm not going to shout out anybody. Maybe Brendan Schooler. Brendan Schooler, I text my boy Texas Homer, during the game. Brendan Schooler was coming with some pop. Now, he was very active. I loved how active he was. So, good to see Brendan Schooler doing this thing out there. I wish he would have caught that interception. But it is what it is, man. He played tough. I will say that. But you guys know what you're here for. You're here for the NCN metrics, the NinosCorner number, the metrics, all that good stuff, guys. So let's just go ahead and dig into it, folks. You guys understand what I do here, man. Let's talk about the Week 10 stats, man. NCN, guys. You guys know, you guys understand that the NinosCorner number. When I break down these stats here, folks, one thing that I want to bring up, usually the team that has the most explosive plays usually wins the game, right? Not the case here, man. Kansas had 6 explosive plays, which is it's about average. Texas had 13 explosive plays, guys. 13 explosive plays. They doubled them, and we still lost the game. All right. neither here nor there. But let's get into the players. All right, let's start with the wide receivers, folks. So looking at the wide receivers, the guy who balled out, man, like I said, Marcus Washington did his thing, man. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 100 yards, NCN receiving of 120.03. Way to go, Marcus Washington. Yards per target, 16.67 yards per target, 20 yards per catch, 5 first down. Every catch he had was a first down. Amazing. So first down per reception, 100%. First down per target, 83%. 2 touchdowns, so 33% TD per target and 40% TD per reception. First of all, let's talk about these touchdowns. That BS call, the spinning the ball on the ground. Come on, man. That was a penalty in overtime. Come on, bro. I do not like that. Big 12 refs suck. Explosive plays. 4 explosive plays out of 5 catches, man. 80% explosive play per reception, 67% explosive play per target. All 5 of his catches were successful plays, so SPs. 26 yards a yak. Hell of a game. Marcus Washington, this is kind of what we've been waiting for. And now we're starting to see it, man. I'm a big fan of Marcus Washington. Really am. Big fan of Marcus Washington. I follow his dad too. Nuno's a hell of a follow also on Twitter. Great knowledge and so pro Longhorn, and it's good to see in situations like that where, hey, let's just face it, we're not doing the best as of right now of what we think this team should be. But when you got the support of your players, you got the support of your players' parents and the fans, and the players aren't dogging the coaches, the players aren't dogging other players, and the parents aren't dogging the coaches, and the parents aren't dogging other players. It just shows that some people are bought in, and it seems like the Washington family has definitely bought in, and those are the kind of kids and families that you need here. I shouldn't say kids; he's a young man. Those are the kind of young men and their families that you need here on the 40 to continue to build an atmosphere, a culture that Coach Sark is trying to build. And I think we see exactly what he's trying to do. We just got to get the right people in here and the right pieces. Next person on the list, guys. Let's talk about Moochie, man. Kevontae Dixon. He had 5 targets, 4 receptions, 37 yards, 3 first downs, an NCN of 54.22. No touchdowns, 1 explosive play, and 3 of his 4 catches were successful plays. So Moochie is Moochie. Moochie had a pretty good game. I think he came in basically like our third receiver. I like Moochie. He has good speed. He's one of those guys I would like to see him get the ball just a little bit more. But the way that Marcus Washington balled at this week, I was cool with the offense. I was cool with the offense when Casey balled. So other than that, next guy on the list, guys, let's look at Xavier Worthy. I think he's the stud of the game. Don't mind the NCN receiving number. It looks low, guys. The average NCN score is 40 points. He got a 49.62. Now, mind you, folks, that 49.62, the only reason why he has such a low NCN is just the amount of targets he got. Now, I got to go back and look at this metric because I'm going to have to readjust this when I, like once I go look at the film one more time. I think that some of these balls, weren't catchable, weren't his fault that they weren't caught. So I need to go and check back and readjust some of these numbers. But 23 targets, 14 receptions, 60.87 catch percentage, 152 yards. I think the big thing is the yards per target. Him having a 6.61 yards per target, and his yards per catch wasn't the best at 10.86 yards per catch. However, out of those 14 catches, 7 were first down. So every, 50% of the time he caught the ball first down. 3 touchdowns, truly amazing, and 3 explosive plays and 12 successful plays. So he had a successful play per reception rate of 86% and an SP per target rate of 52%. And out of those 155 yards or 152 yards, 99 were yak yards at the catch. Way to go, man. Xavier Worthy's got to be my MVP of the game. Probably my MVP for the season, him and Bijan. But it was like Bijan got hurt, so Xavier Worthy's going to continue the ball. And kudos to him for breaking the great number 4 Roe Williams record for freshman TD catches. So he is now entrenched with the greats here at Texas. And so well worthy, no pun intended, but Xavier Worthy is well worthy of that recognition. Next guy on the list, guys, let's go and talk about the tight end position. K Brewer, 2 receptions, 2 targets, 160 NCM receiving, 40 yards, 2 first downs, 1 touchdown, 2 explosive plays, and 2 successful plays. So kudos to Cade Brewer for doing his thing, man. Great play by him. And then Jared Wiley, 1 target, 1 catch, 18.46 NCM receiving, only 2 yards. So nothing much to see there. Now, if we go down to the running backs, guys, let's take a look at the running backs here. And of course, Bijan is out for the rest of the season, but prior to him going out, he had 14 attempts for 70 yards, 5 yards a carry, 52.23 NCN rush, which is 12 points higher than the NCAA average. 4 first downs, 1 explosive play, and 7 successful plays. So his SP per attempt rate was 50%. So no fumbles lost. On the receiving side of the house, I got Bijan having 5 targets, 3 receptions, 48 yards. NCM receiving a 71.06. 2 first downs, guys, 1 touchdown, and 2 explosive plays and 3 successful plays. So every one of his catches was successful. Bijan is the bell cow of his team. Hate to see him out. But yeah, he is definitely the bell cow of his team. It's going to be interesting to see that he's out. Who's going to start? I'm pretty sure it's going to be Rojo with some Keelan Robinson kind of, just thrown in there and infused in there. But we shall see. But talking about Roshan had an NCN of 51.16 when it comes to rushing. 6 attempts for 37 yards, 6.17 yards per attempt, 2 first downs. So 33.33 first down per attempt, which is exactly what you want. You want your guy to get a first down every 3 carries. XP, no explosive plays, but 3 successful plays out of those 6 attempts. So a 50% SP per attempt rate, no fumbles. And then on the receiving side of the house, Roshan 31.46 NC in receiving. He had 3 catches on 4 targets, 19 yards, 1 first down, and 2 successful plays. So 2 out of his 3 catches were successful plays, 50% SP per target, 67% SP per reception. The next guy on the list is Jonathan Brooks. So Jonathan Brooks, Mr. Football last year in the state of Texas, true freshman. And I think he's out too. He had a shoulder issue. So 4 attempts, 19 yards, only 4.75 yards a carry, which is not bad. You think about it, 5 yards a carry. All right, so 1 first down, 2 successful plays. So 2 out of his 4 attempts were successful plays in nature. 50% SP per attempt rate, no fumbles. On the receiving side of the house, 1 catch, 1 target, 12 yards, NCM receiving 72, 1 first down, 1 successful play. So those are the stats, folks, when we're talking about just the player stats. A couple things that I do want to get into, and we'll talk about this now. Let's look at the charts here when we're looking at the Texas offense and how they fared in this game. The Texas offense had an NCN score of 60.5 total in the first quarter at 59.13. Good. Second quarter, horrible, 25.1. That's when Hudson Card came in and kind of did his thing. And then Casey had to come save him in the third and fourth quarter. So 70.7 NCN score for the third quarter and an 86.8 NCN in the fourth quarter and overtime combined. The XP rate, so the explosive play rate, 16% of they had 16% of their plays were explosive plays in nature. Now, if we take a look on the flip side of that to the Kansas side of the ball, mind you, Kansas is starting their, third string quarterback. And they had a higher NCN offense than Texas did, 69.1 point NCN offense. First quarter, 98.9. They killed us in the first quarter, guys. 98.9. Second quarter, 67.4. Third quarter, 49.5. Fourth quarter, 78.6. Every quarter, they were above the NCN average of 40 points. And Texas was not in the second quarter. That cost us the game. And the defense. But talking about defense, Texas defense, the NCN average for defense is 45 points. Texas did not reach 45 points in any of these quarters. Matter of fact, for the game, they had a 25.8 NCN score and 10-point NCN score in the first quarter, 32 in the second quarter, 42.2 in the third quarter, and 21.7 in the fourth quarter. Horrible. I don't even want to speak on it anymore. Kansas's defense, on the other hand, they had an NCN score of 55.1 for the entire game. Kind of weird because they didn't really meet that metric as a whole when it comes. But honestly, I think that is that's a product of the turnovers they got. the sacks they got. They had 2 forced fumbles, 2 picks, a pick six, a ton of tackles for loss. Let's take a look at the tackles for loss that they had. Kansas's tackles for loss were tackles for loss. They had 3 tackles for loss. I got 1 sack, 2 interceptions. They had a very strong defense of performance when it came to making some splash plays. However, their defensive performance was no better than Texas. I mean, you got to think about it. They gave up 56 points, Texas gave up 57. So, not the greatest defensive performance, but you got to give them credit where credit's due. They were able to capitalize on turnovers. And once they capitalized on turnovers, they won the game. So, overall, Kansas beat Texas in the NCN defensive side of the house and the NCN offensive side of the house. And typically using the NCN metric, if you win the defense and offense NCN metrics, both, it's like 92% chance of winning the game. So that's what Kansas did. Looking at the quarterback position, Kansas quarterback, 52% NCN total, 50% passing and 60% rushing. Texas had a better quarterback performance, 56% total for the success rate. The SP rate, and 56% passing and 6% rushing as well. Now, on the per down basis, and take a look here on the per down basis, first down, 54% first down for Texas compared to 45% passing for Kansas, 38% second down for Kansas, 59% for Texas, and on third down, 62%, 58% for Texas. So Kansas was highly efficient on third down and the money downs. At one point in the game, I think they were 8 for 9 on third downs. And it's like 39s, 12s. So they were hitting it when they needed to. Just kudos to them. The last thing I want to go over, guys, is the XP rate. The Texas offense XP yards per down. Texas had 275 total yards of XP yards, which accounted for 49% of their total yards. And they got a lot of those. Well, it kind of spread out evenly. 100 yards on first down, 91 on second down, and 84 on third down. So taking a look at Kansas's, their offensive is supposed to pay yards per down, 161 yards per down, 38% of total XP yards per the total number of yards that they had. And theirs are pretty much spread out from the first and second down, 68 yards on first down, 58 on the second down, and only 35 on third down. But guys, that's pretty much all I want to talk about. Everything else kind of just speaks to the metrics. But when it comes to this game, Texas had their opportunity to win this game, and they let it slip out. You guys already heard the story about the walk-on who ended up getting the 2-point conversion to actually win the game for Kansas. So his first time catching the ball, his first time in the game, the whole nine. What a story. Texas has to do better. Steve Sarkisian has to, manage that quarterback room a tad bit better. After Casey scored that first touchdown, I would have let Casey roll with it, tell Hudson Card to sit down, and if things arise to where he can come in the game, let him come in the game then. But we're not expecting a game like this from Kansas. But hey, we lost to Kansas. 5 straight game losing streak. Texas must do better. We got to figure out a way. This is a horrible time to lose this game. Had a ton of recruits there. You had all the offensive linemen there. Cam Williams, you had Kelvin Banks, you had Cam Dewberry, you had Campbell. He was there as well. You had a bunch of recruits there, man. Perkins was there, I think as well. So this was a game that Texas should have won and should have won pretty handily and easily. But digging back into the metrics, like I told you guys, the offensive line recruiting here has not been the best over the last 5 years, which has caused Texas to basically have the lowest number of offensive line recruits over the last 5 years, tied with the team that they just lost to. And that shows you that we don't have the strength in the trenches.